All right, I just took a little break. Get a little coffee in me, as if I'm not loud enough as it is. But we just finished up talking about the mitochondria. Now we're going to move on to the next part of the cell organelle, called the ribosome. And you have this, ribosomes you have in your sheet. So what do you need to hear right here? Required for protein synthesis. What you need to write on your paper is makes protein. That's key. And now, one thing you need to know is that ribosomes on a diagram are going to look kind of like little dots. They might be attached to parts of the Golgi apparatus, which is like a slimy road, and all of a sudden you're going to see all these ribosomes, or sorry, the endoplasmic reticulum. This would be called the endoplasmic reticulum, and these would be ribosomes on it, just so you know. So you know that now. Let's move on to the next paper. Now, we got a picture of a plant cell here. You don't need to draw this or anything, but look at this. Oh, I'm sorry. You have to write this down. My bad. There, I was on the wrong paper. There you are. So the next slide is actually about vacuoles in plant cells and in animal cells, right? Vacuoles in animal cells, you don't have this, but you need to write this down. So I would write on the top of your paper, vacuoles in animal equal small sacs. And I would say contain water and food storage. See, in an animal, they're very small. Now, this is the next slide coming up. Here's a picture of a plant cell. There's a couple. So look at this. If we go back to the picture of an animal cell, look at this. Look at that vacuole. It's just a little vacuole, little vacuole, little vacuole. No problem, right? Let's go to what we're looking at now. When we look at a plant cell, whoa! Look at this. That's a big vacuole. Even in this diagram, that's a big vacuole. Just so you know, this is the diagram you will have on a test. It's very similar. Look at some ribosomes are the dots. These little pancakes are the chloroplasts. The little pill with squiggles is a mitochondria. The Golgi is already next to the nucleus always. So the nucleus and the nucleolus. The Golgi body, which we haven't learned about yet, is always right next to it. It's like squiggles next to it. And on there, you'll see little ribosomes. So there's the part of the Golgi without ribosomes and the part of the Golgi with ribosomes. We're going to learn about that right away, but this is some pretty cool stuff. Look at that vacuole. Woo! Good times. So now you kind of know, right? And see, if you look at the slide here, vacuoles in plant cells usually have a large central vacuole which contains liquid called cell sap. It's everything. This is the life of the cell. But have you ever seen a plant that kind of goes, and it's kind of dying and wilting because it's running out of water and it's running out of food, and then you give it water and the plant goes, because what's happening in every cell of that plant, this vacuole will shrink if it doesn't get water. It'll get smaller and smaller, and the plant will be dying. And as it gets more water and nourishment and vitamins and sugars and stuff to store in here for food, it fills up again, and the plants go. So it also really creates structure and shape in a plant as well, which is kind of cool. All right, so we know about a vacuole in a plant. This is a great slide. Sorry, the page is a little bit messed up here. You have this on your other slide, on the back side, I believe. You can see differences between plant and animal cells. You have that. Let me let you find that for a second. But in an animal cell, there is no cell wall. You've got to remember these. This is on a test, for sure. No cell wall in an animal. They don't need it. Cell walls in plants are like protection. Because a plant can't go, oh, something's about to stab me. I need to move. It's a plant. It's planted. We could protect ourselves, living animals and certain kinds of simple cell organisms can protect themselves, whereas a cell wall in a plant, it has to have. There's no chloroplast in an animal cell. Watch this. Let me show you something here. Watch this. See this? See what I'm doing here? Watch. That's not bad. I'm going to eat it with some M&Ms later. But what I did, I just went and got some energy. So I could bring a little plant in here and we could put an apple beside it and see if it's going to eat it. But I don't think that's going to happen. What I think is going to happen is the plant's going to need to get energy some other way, because the plant can't go, hey, Mr. Apple, how's it? I won't chew again in front of you because it's kind of gross. But a plant can't go get its energy. A plant needs to get its energy from the sun. So guess what? They have these things called chloroplasts that we'll learn about that take sun and convert that energy into sugar that they can live with. In animal cells, the vacuoles are very small, and in plant cells, the vacuoles are what it's all about, right? The giant vacuoles. So remember, in a plant, giant vacuoles, plants have chloroplasts because they can't go get their own food like me with the apple. Now I'm just thinking about that apple and M&Ms. If you've never had M&Ms with an apple, the peanut M&Ms, hope you're not allergic, don't want to get you killed, but take a peanut M&M and a bite of an apple, and it's like a candy apple from a fair, but with a little bit of a twist. One of my favorite snacks. And they have a cell wall for protection and structure, right? We have bones for structure, we have skin for protection, and we can also move away from danger, which a plant can't because it's a plant. All right, let's move on. Cell wall. Now you're going to have to add some notes here right beside this. So you're going to write these things down. So what you need to know, a cell wall surrounds the surface. So you have a cell membrane right here, but you also have a cell wall. The cell wall is always on the outside. So you have cell membrane, then you'll have a cell wall over top of the entire cell. So I'll give you a second to write these down. You can look at this picture. You can pause the video and write these facts down. So you'd have it on the side cell wall. You could put note, 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 note there. You're going to have another one right away for chloroplasts on the next slide. You're going to write a few notes about chloroplasts. I think you know what we're going to say about chloroplasts, about getting energy from the sun. And cell walls, I think you know what to do. So pause it or go to the slide that I've given you and write these things down in your margins here so you have a little more information. Now that we're going to move on, let's look at chloroplasts, right? And there it is. There is the pancakes. That's what they're going to look like. You don't need to know these details. Don't worry about that right now. That's advanced. Right now you need to know that chloroplasts are found in plants. They have green pigment called chlorophyll, and they create photosynthesis inside of them, which gives energy. So take a second, write those 3 points down. Sorry, I bumped the camera. Write those 3 down, and I'll give you a second to do that. You can pause it right now if you want to use this, or you can go to the slides that I gave you. Okay. I'm going to move on. Let's flip it over. I think this is where we left off. Yes. Vacuoles in plant cells right there. And you have these notes. You have them right there. Vacuoles in animals, small, but a vacuole in plant are very big. They have sap. We've talked about that. So I don't think we need to spend much more time over that right now. This is a great slide that you have. I would be studying this. This is a great thing. The part, the function, and where it's found. And guess what one of our lessons coming up in a few days is going to be? It's going to be the diagrams of these plant and animal cells, and you're going to be listing all the parts. And you should have a really good clue about what these parts are because we're talking about them all today. And trust me, there's going to be a lot of repetition. I know that memorizing is tough, and I know that the best way to memorize is to repeat. So we're going to be doing multiple versions of lessons with the same content over and over, slightly different, just to get it through to you because you need to know these things. This is not something you could forget this year or not use again. You're going to be using this every year in high school for a long time and maybe even further. Another thing, as you're looking and admiring this beautiful chart, that you could read on your own. I'm not going to read it all out for you. But another thing to know, I don't know if I have a picture of one here. Yeah, I do. So a lot of times I use different pictures. I'll use a picture like this or like that, right? Like that. And then it's hard to find all the parts in this one. And then when you think you know them, I show you this one. You go, but I don't know what they are anymore. That's kind of part of science. I don't know if you could see it here, but I'll hold it up to my phone right away. But look what a cell looks like even in the real world, right? Does that look like a clear, perfect diagram, folks? Does that look like a great diagram that we can just see all the parts perfectly? No. So we've got to use the information we have and be able to see in a diagram like this, or a diagram like that, or a real cell in the real world as best as we can. And we have to be able to use our knowledge to find the parts anyway, as best as we can. That's why I will change up diagrams. So let's move on. Remember, this paper here, learn it. It's great stuff. So now you have this paper. It's your last page, and I need you to add some notes right here. So you're going to write specialized cells, and you're just going to write the types. If you want, you could say a red blood cell and draw that it's like a disc shaped kind of, right? You could say sperm cell, like that, right? You could say an egg is round, nerve is like got a central body with all these things like that, right? You could do stuff like that if you like, or you could just look at this slider. You could just write down red blood cell, hair cell, a root hair. Look at that root stuck in your head as the hair sticks out. That's pretty cool. Now this is something important, folks. This is a big concept that's pretty cool. Notice how, once again, all of these cells are very different, but they all have the same things, all the same parts. All the same parts, but they all look very different because they're designed for their job. A sperm has to swim to get to the egg, so it needs a tail, even though it's got the same parts. This egg cell needs to be fertilized, so it makes its surface as big as possible so the sperm has a chance. This nerve cell needs to pass information along very quickly, right? So it has all these branches to make that energy and that information travel as fast as possible. This shape of a blood cell has the most surface area to have the most oxygen because blood is carrying oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout our body. So this disc shape is the best shape in the universe to carry the most with the least amount of space. This root cell, obviously it's going to stick in your scalp here and your hair is going to be sticking out there. It's designed for a purpose. That is what's going to bring us to the next slide. Let's look. Cell differentiation. And you don't have this on your paper, but you should write this down. And I would write it down. Oh. Good. All right. I would write this down right in the margins here. I'd put some different things about cell differentiation. You can get it here, but that's just what I've talked about, right? Cells develop special structures or lose structures to carry out specific functions. They do their job very well for what they're meant to do. Hence, cells become differentiated to form specialized cells, and the structure of each cell is adapted. You could pause this, or you can look at the slides that I've given you and write this down in the margin. This is your assignment today. Having all of these margin notes written down, that is the assignment. And the last slides coming up is the organ systems. Now, what do we need to know? Organs will work together to make a system. This is the circulatory system, right? You've got all these different organs, but they all make up one system. And then you have the circulatory system, the nervous system, the respiratory system, the lymphatic system, the digestive system, the nervous system, the skeletal system. All those systems working together make up an organism. I'm an organism. And examples of organ systems are right there. You have that. And the last one is just a list of some organ systems. Lymphatic, respiratory, digestive, urinary. reproductive. You should know a few because you might be asked to name various systems. So this has been a long lesson. This is like 35 minutes of you watching. This will take a few days. I'm not expecting you to do this instantly, but go and put those notes in your margins as you've been following along. Submit those for assignment 2, parts of the cell, I believe I'll call it, or something like that. And we'll be looking next at another, right here you can see, cell review, which is going to be going over the same kinds of things again. And then we'll be doing diagrams of a cell coming up. So, we'll see you soon. Good luck. Take care. Be safe.